Hello, Realtors. Thank you very much for watching today. Today is Friday, March 22nd, 2024. And today's topic, wow, as soon as I posted yesterday, the topic for today, I got several text messages from agents going, "What are you doing to talk about? It sounds so interesting. Can't wait." So thank you for all those that sent me text messages. But today's topic, let me the disclaimer. Well, the topic is how buyers are going to trick sellers into paying their commission. So, disclaimer that what I'm about to say is thoughts, ideas, predicting things that could happen in a transaction with a buyer and seller and commission. I don't condone things I'm about to say. I'm just giving you scenarios that happen. And 99.9% everything I'm saying is playing by the rules, not illegal. So as soon as anybody, I knew some agents texted me and said, "Trick, are we tricking the sellers? Is that something like we're deceiving them? And is it against our ethics?" I knew that. That's why I titled it this way, because I thought maybe some of you like, "Oh my God, Tony's going to tell us how to do something unethically or professional or illegal to do." No, all of this, as far as I can see it, I've gone through the scenarios in my head above board and fine. It's just part of the negotiations. But with that disclaimer in being made, these are the scenarios. And this, I'm going to give you an example of a buyer presentation to some agents will do. So, as far as I know, and I'm until all the rules, and I've gone through as many pages so far of the settlement, uh, the a buyer's agent's welcome to charge their buyer almost whatever they want. And it could be a sliding scale. You say, okay, if you buy a house, if this is a scenario, I'll charge you 2%, a flat fee. If this scenario, I'll charge you 3%. If this scenario, I'll charge you 4%. We're an open business, independent contractors. As far as I see in the law, nothing's changed where we have a right to charge for our services in a sliding scale. So example, buyer presentation possibly can be, as long as this plays by the rules, unless something changes by July, and I didn't know this, is that you can have a buyer presentation explain to your buyer, "Listen, I charge 4%, and you got me at your beck and call. I'm going to," and again, the numbers are just ideas, they're not specifics. I'm not saying this is what agents charge. I'm just using numbers to throw out numbers. "I charge you 4% beck and call until the end of time, till you buy a house. I'm here for you. It doesn't matter how many houses, how many offers, how many anything, 4%. And I'm going to recommend a few lenders that I work with. And if you don't want to use them, they already know how I work with my buyers. But if you choose another lender, no problem. Let me talk to them. Just let them know how our buyer agreement works." And how our buyer agreements works is this, is that I, at 4%, am going to do everything in my power to try to include those in your offer. So if with your authorization, of course, if this is what you want as a buyer, if you want to pay me out of pocket, great, 4%. Fine. If you want to instruct me to try to make sure the seller pays for those, I will do so. If you feel that that's the best way to for you and your financing. So one, if you instruct me, I will do my best to negotiate a deal where it's included and the seller pays you. If I have a seller that will not pay and is adamant about not paying a buyer's agent, they refuse to even look at your offer, and I think it'll put your offer in a bad light because that seller's so refusal of paying anybody, we'll work with your lender and include my fees in your closing costs and talk to the lender. And we have to make sure that you're approved through the lender. Talk to the lender first. Can my costs be included in your closing costs with whatever loan you're getting approved, the 4%? Next, with your authorization, if this is where you went, I can go back to the seller and not say you're paying 4% to pay me. I'm going to say 4% for closing costs. And my fee will be included in all your closing costs. The 4% just comes off the top. It's almost like a wash, but you could talk to your lender. My costs are just going to be grouped in with all other costs, and the 4% there. And taking a step back to you, that's what the trickery may be for some agents, because you're going to come across some sellers, hopefully not many, and listing agents that allow, well, or don't, not allow, I can't say that, but don't suggest your seller look at the total numbers. And then part of the negotiation is says, okay, you won't pay me, but would you mind paying 4% for the buyer's closing costs? Seller's like, fine, okay. Now, the legalities, the ethics of what we have to discuss. Now, yes, 100%. Ethically, you have to, and I think I don't know exactly how it's going to play out, of where you have to include being transparent that the buyer is paying you a certain fee. That's somewhere. I haven't gotten to that part. Where are we going to write this in? Buyer's agent to be compensated and has disclosed to that seller. Again, I don't know the whole rule to that. So where we have to disclose, or even 100%, if we have to disclose, do we have to disclose? Now, this seller's agent's making this, buyer's agent making this. If the buyer's paying and the seller paying, I don't know 100%. So don't quote me on this. We'll find this out. Do they have the buyers getting paying their agent, sellers paying their agent? Do we have to tell them what we're getting paid? I don't know. I don't think so, but we're going to find out. But the buyer's technically paying you because it's in the buyer's side closing costs. The seller is not paying you directly. The seller is giving in this scenario, 4% credit for closing costs. That covers all of their costs, your costs included. I don't think there's any way a seller can say these funds could only be used for XXS and not H. I don't think that's possible as far as I know. I've never seen it. You can't dictate. Buyer has costs, whatever their costs are, they're going for closing costs. And then this is how could be some trickery involved. I say it's just sales. It's just which angle are you going with on that? Now, say there's a combination. Say there's a combination. It says the buyer's agent says, well, I need to make 4%. Well, maybe the 2%, say the seller's offering 2%. Now, remember this, agents, just want to make sure if you didn't see some of my other videos, you do not, when there's a seller and the seller says, hey, by the way, I'm offering 2%, just as an example, you do not have to accept that. You could ask for more. Totally can ask for more. So anybody watching this that's not an agent, what we've been normally charging, anybody could ask for any more. Not just a listing agent, because they're under contract. Buyer's agents could ask for as much as they want. I'm talking about the buyer and buyer's agent. So anytime I say buyer's agent asking, I mean buyer. Through the buyer says, hey, I signed an agreement with my buyer's agent that my buyer agent gets paid 4%. And you, listing agent, just told me your seller's offering 2. I could still ask for 4. No, nothing illegal, nothing wrong with that. If your buyer's agreement, you and the buyer agreed to 5%, you could go, buyers legally allowed right in the contract, requesting seller to pay my buyer's agent 5%. You don't have to accept what's in the MLS. Well, not in the MLS anymore, but what the listing agent says. But again, scenario. Listing agent says, hey, by the way, my seller's adamant, won't go over 2%. Okay, how about 2% to me and 2% for closing costs? Then half's coming from the seller, half's being paid by the buyer. You're getting your 4%. These are scenarios where I'm trying to explain to buyers agents what's happening is, in my opinion, the more every day, I'm like, this is great for buyers agents. We're going to set our costs and set our what we charge And we're going to end up making more money because, like in this scenario here, normally and traditionally, we as agents, we just accept whatever a seller and a listing agent have on the MLS. Okay, I'll take it. I'll take it. 2%, 1.5%. I wouldn't anymore. That's my opinion. That's my opinion is that you set your price for the services you give. And you should get, total, my opinion, should get paid more for more work, right? If it takes you 1 day, 2 days to sell a house and a couple hours, you could charge what you want. If it takes you 6, 8 months and dozens of offers and weekends and holidays and showing houses and can't even calculate how many hours, charge more. You're allowed to. You should be able to. That's it. So we used to, as buyers agents, just accept, no matter if it took us a year to find them a house, whatever the seller decided or listing agent decided between the two of them, here's their measly little commission after I cut it with, my broker and pay my gas and pay my taxes and this. Example, my opinion, my percentage is going up the lower the house. If I'm showing, if someone says, say, example, I have an investor that's looking at $50,000 houses. I am not leaving the house if I'm not making, I'll just throw out a number, $3,000. What is that? Do your math. If 10%, well, no, $3,000, say it's 1%. That's $500. 3% is only $1,500. So it's 6%. So anything around 50,000 or lower, I'm charging my buyers 6%. That's what I would do. I'm just throwing out a number. I mean, I'm just giving an idea. Everybody's could do whatever they want. I have to disclaim that. I don't want a call from some attorney or something, or the Department of Commerce or something that I am telling agents what to charge and price fixing. I'm just throwing out ideas. So the lower the house, there's no, as far as I know, unless I get a letter from the Division of Real Estate saying this is what the maximum amount of money you can charge a client for your services. I've never seen it. I don't think it exists. It's just a guideline of what we've been doing. And I promise you that someday we're going to look back on what's happening this year. And some people are going to be selling their house and go, I remember the good old days when they only charged this and I only had to pay this as a seller. But now I'm getting in these scenarios and a huge buyer's market as a seller. I'm paying crazy commissions to get these deals done. It's going to happen. So take advantage of that, not of people, but of picking what you are worth in the services, the package of services. So back to the topic of trickery. Is you're going to have sellers 100% are adamant about not paying a buyer's agent. They just saw it on the news. They just can't get over it. Just like those FSBOs that for sale by owners, for all those agents that are not agents, that just, you call them up for your buyer, said, hey, I see your for sale by owner online. I have a buyer looking in your area. Would you be open if I brought a buyer at a price agreeable to you to pay a commission? Absolutely not. I'm not paying a realtor. I go, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you haven't even heard my offer yet. How do you know you won't pay? I'm not paying, no matter what. So we're going to get those type of people to shoot themselves in the foot financially because they don't want to hear any offers. They think they're saving money. So they're adamant. Now you have a buyer over here that just doesn't have the money to pay you, and you have an agreement with them. So what do? This is where I think agents are going to turn to I use the term trickery of talking to the lender. Please, I state this, you have to talk to the lender. You have to ask them. I suggest before you work with a buyer, when you explain the buyer scenarios, call the lender, talk to whatever lender. Please, please, if I could get this announcement, an important point. with all what's happening, please have your buyers shop around for a lender before you look. Before you look and shop rates. I mean, shop rates, shop this. And then when you get that, pick that lender, get a pre-approval from that lender, then go out and start looking for houses and tell your buyer that's your lender. That's your lender. You pick them, you interviewed with them, you interviewed 10, 5, 3, 2, whatever they want. But this is the person who's going to stick with you from there to the end. Don't get a house accepted. Please, agents, just explain to your buyer. Don't start shopping again. Especially, I think this is so unethical, completely unethical. Completely unethical, in my opinion, is when a buyer goes to puts an offer on a house, she tells that listing agent and that seller, this is my lender that's pre-approved me. That, in my opinion, as a listing agent, is part of the offer. I trust where you're going. I know that person. I'm about to call them, validate you, and everything's up to date, and that lender's pre-approval is still good, and start working on it. And then they just start shopping again. I think that's totally unethical. Don't do that. Please don't be those buyers agents, and then have that. And please, to more lenders out there, you can't sign a buyer up. You can't, like, hold them to a contract like they have to stick with you, but have that conversation. And so really good lenders telling this, listen, I will give you this pre-approval letter, but you got to give me your word you're actually going to use me, because I'm going to do a lot of work and you've done your shopping already. You're not just using me to get a pre-approval and I'm the only person you've talked to, and you think you're going to start shopping again. That is not good. So the whole point, I get that. Then you build a relationship with that lender before the offer is going, hey, these are the scenarios that how I get paid. Can your buyer, if I have a seller that does not want to pay commission adamantly, can we work it into the closing costs? Can we do that? And to anybody out there, talk to your lender, but conventional could go up to 9% closing costs. Did you know that? FHA is 6. FHA is 6. Conventional up to 9. I believe it's 3%. If you put 10% or lower on a conventional loan, but double check this with your lender, it's max 3% closing costs. If it's 10% to 25% down payment with conventional, you could go up to 6%, and up to, if it's over 25% down payment, you could go up to 9% closing costs. In theory, not saying you should do this. In theory, you might have a buyer's agreement with the buyer saying, I get paid 9% because I'm going to be doing cartwheels and carrying you to all the houses. I don't know, whatever your service, I'm going to charge you 9%, but don't worry, we could put it in your closing costs and you don't have to pay. We are in a society of no money down, of financing stuff I know I'm going off on different tangent here, to think that we're actually going to have buyers, even if they have the money, that are going to want to pay cash out of their pocket to their agent is ridiculous. They're not going to do it. If they could finance their closing cost or finance their agent's payment, if they could include it in their house or whatever. The theory of people saying buyers have been paying higher for houses because they're paying closing costs, because they're paying for the seller's paying for their agent, is completely false in a majority of things. Some agents do this. I know there's some agents do this, and this is what some agents are going to do, is that if they have a seller, they're going to put in an offer, not paying anything, not paying closing costs. I know a lot of agents, I've heard people, brokers, managers, and team leaders train their agent on this. When you go in, get an offer, get it all accepted. Then when you get the sellers to the lowest point, because you work for the buyer trying to get them the lowest point, say they get down to 200,000 and now their closing costs are 5,000. Now ask them, okay, before we finalize this, now we're at your lowest point or the agreed upon price. Can we go for 205? buyer actually knows we're raising the price to 205 and give 5,000 back to the buyer for closing costs. Can we do that? And then the buyer knows exactly 100% they're raising the price to pay for them. Sometimes some agents have done those kind of things because some people, again, sellers can't imagine not paying for anything, paying for closing costs, paying for anything. So yeah, some agents, their negotiation tactic to get their buyers the best deal, that's their job as a buyer's agent. They say, hey, we're going to try to get them down to the lowest price, but before we finalize and you sign that last thing, we're going to counter offer one more time. And we're going to go, I'm raising it by 5,000 to give 5,000 back. Does that happen? Yes, it happens all the time. Will it continue to happen? Yes, it will. Will it happen with buyer's agent's commission? Yes, it will. All above board, right? It's 100% okay as long as the seller agrees, the buyer agrees, and the house appraises. That's the other thing. This whole thing, I know I'm going off on tangents here, is with talk to any appraiser. Yeah, I have many agents that are appraisers too, and we were going. Several of them I talked to about what's happening, and they go, "It's crazy. We don't take commission and costs. If the house is worth 200,000, it's worth 200,000. They don't go back and see how much commission is. If you have two houses that just sold, two comparables, one for sale by owner and one with an agent at 200,000 each, they're both comparables for 200,000. They don't go, okay, they don't take in consideration, well, this one sold for it is what it is. It's the value. So I know I got off topic. So back to the topic, and I'll let you go, is that this hopefully two sides of things. One, gives you a tool or a skill of something to do when you come across these things as a buyer's agent. As a buyer's agent, you can do these things. Do I condone them? That's up for you to decide. I'm just telling you situations that you could get into as a buyer's agent, either, and then you could set the price. As far as I know, and we'll see the rules with the buyer's agreement, you can say, if the seller's paying me, I charge you this. If I have to take it, you got to pay it out of closing costs, I will charge you this. If you have to really come out of pocket and write a check at closing to pay for my service, I will charge you that. As far as I know, that's fine. It's kind of like if you ever had some medical thing and you go in and go, okay, oh, you're going to pay by insurance? Okay, this is the cost. But then if you talk to your doctor and go, oh, for the people that aren't insured, this is the price. If you want to pay out of pocket, not through the insurance. Kind of like the companies, when you go in, I know sometimes I go, here's my services, but if you pay by credit card, I'm going to charge you a service fee because I got to use the credit card company. Or if you pay by check, it's this price. Same with real estate. You could have that. So, of course, what are agents going to do? They're going to try to do the things that make them the most money. They will. And it's all above board. It's seller agrees to it, buyer agrees to it. It's all fine. So they open this all up for us. Let's take advantage of it, not advantage of people, but let's start actually getting paid for what we're worth. That's when I say, if you hear me say, let's take advantage of it, because I'm a firm 100% believer, especially in Ohio, we don't make enough money. I know I've been doing this 30 years. I know more agents that are in poverty that work those 70, 80, 90, $100,000 houses, and they work their fingers to the bone and running in all hours of the day and night, and they cut up that commission. It'd be less than minimum wage. So I'm not talking about the agents making $20,000 on a sale and show people four houses and make 20,000. That's different. That happens, obviously. That's what, across the country. But I'm talking about the agents that actually, when you sell a house or a buyer and you cut up your time and your effort and you made less than minimum wage if you really cut it up. So that's what I mean, take advantage of it. Make sure you have a minimum. Make sure you're making a good percentage or a flat fee compared to the houses you are. I totally believe that 100%. So back to that. Now, as a buyer's agent, things that you might be able to do: talk to your lenders, sellers, listing agents, be aware of this. just so you could educate your seller. Like if a seller says, I'm adamantly not paying, well, do you really want to go around that? There's ways they're going to do it. Well, how are they going to go around doing it? Well, when they ask for closing costs, that buyer's agent fee is going to be in their closing. This is going to go part of them. So why don't we just skip this charade of how much, just what dollar, what percentage will get that? Are you going to pay for anything? So if we get a good price for your house, will you pay up to, just throwing out a number, 4% for stuff, either for their agent, to closing costs, to repairs, money in escrow? What are you going to do? It's just money. Just tell them it's just money, and educate your sellers that why do this charade of trickery that could happen. And and I would say that to any seller that says to me as a listing agent, I won't pay a buyer's agent. My personal opinion, I wouldn't take a listing for that. I'm not saying a dollar amount. I'm not saying I'm not going to take a listing no matter if they pay a buyer's agent this. No, I'm just talking about if anybody said to me, said, I'm not listing my house and I won't even entertain a buyer's agent's commission, I 100% my feeling it's discriminatory. And I would say that right to a seller. I'm sorry, we're not doing business. There's probably other places you can go, but that's discrimination to me, and I won't be a part of this. And then have the long talk with them about why I feel it's discrimination against people with limited funds, against veterans, again, whatever. It's, to me, flat out discrimination. If someone says that's one of my other videos, if you want to look for it, is that's to me a seller saying, I'm not going to sell my home to those type of people. What are those type of people? People like veterans that can't pay for their agent, people that have limited funds, but they want a house and they afford a house and they have the down payment, but they just don't have enough to hire a great agent to show them a million houses. But I don't want discriminate against those type of people. So another long video, of course. So thank you very much for watching. Remember, reach out to me directly. I'm happy to discuss this. I love this topic. I promise you, I 100% feel it's going to be so good. This is going to work out the every day. And I'm thinking about this. This is good stuff. The buyer agreement, buyer's agents setting their own pace. Agents we're as companies, as franchises, as national association, we're educating agents of things you can do and can't do and should do. I think we're bringing everybody together to say, listen, we're all going to be, hopefully all of us, all realtors, million plus realtors around the country, are finally on the same page and know what's going on. And I think that's a great thing. So, all right, that's it. Have a wonderful Friday, a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday. Bye-bye.